Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. One small ambush may not be a big deal, but a series of small terror attacks can create fear and unrest. This is what we've been seeing in the Jammu region over the past month. The Kathua attack is the 7th attack in just a month. It comes at a time when normalcy is returning to Jammu and Kashmir. The recent general elections witnessed nearly 60% of the people voting. The trend in the past couple of decades suggests that whenever terror is on a decline, Pakistan's deep state switches tactics. There could be gaps in our counter-terror insurgency grid in Jammu because troops were shifted to handle the hot situation at the LAC. Now, the question we're asking this evening are, will these attacks spread out of Jammu? And what can the security forces devise, a plan to thwart such attacks? Joining me to discuss this are Sheshpal Vaid, former DGP Jammu and Kashmir Police, Colonel Nikhil Apte, an Indian Army veteran, defense analyst, and my colleague Aditya Rajkaul here in the studio with me. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. I want to start by asking DGP Vaid this question. Why, DGP Vaid, these attacks now? The timing is everything. Why June, July of 2024?
Namaskar. The kind of response you saw in the parliament election, more than 50% polling was there.
Yes.
Then a country, your neighbor, dubious neighbor, which has never allowed democracy and freedom to its own people, will not like this, as per Supreme Court order, also Honorable Prime Minister has announced the assembly elections are due. I think the choosing of timing is very, very appropriate. Now, let me mention here one small incident. I was a young SP, and I recall in the early 90s when terrorism was spilling over from Kashmir Valley to this side of Pir Panchal, to
Yes.
Jammu region. I'm talking of early 1990, 91, 92. It spread to Doda district, the erstwhile Doda district, today Doda, Kishtwar, Ramban, and all these hilly areas.
Yes.
And on 3rd December 1993, an attack took place in district Udhampur, in Basantgarh area of Udhampur district. Exactly the place where yesterday attack took place in Basantgarh area, a police post
Yes.
was attacked. At that time, it spread panic in Jammu region that terrorists have reached, which earlier was thought that it is limited to Kashmir, have reached so close to Jammu.
Yes.
Can you imagine? I hope by narrating this incident, you can imagine the terror in the minds of people, the fear in the minds of people by these series of attacks which have happened in a recent 1 month or so. That is the seriousness of this situation. I think we should come out with very detailed action plan and counter these.
Yes, absolutely. A well-detailed action plan is the need of the hour. Aditya, you're plugged into the security networks. Tell us what the security forces believe is going on right now over the last 1 month. What are they talking? What are your sources telling you?
You know, Sandeep, the larger point is, of course, that Kashmir is completely choked ever since 2019.
Right.
Everything that was possible from the security framework, from the political framework, freedom was given to the security forces.
Yes.
And they applied their mind, they applied their strategy, and terrorists have been reduced completely.
Right.
Top commanders have been killed.
Right.
Terror organizations have been eliminated completely in the
Yes.
Kashmir Valley. So they don't have a breathing space
Right.
entirely.
Right.
That's why they resorted to hybrid terrorism.
Yes.
In Jammu, they are opening a new front.
Right.
Not that Jammu didn't see terrorism.
Yes.
Jammu has seen terrorism, but not as brutal
Yes.
and as consistent
Yes.
as we have witnessed in the Kashmir Valley.
Right.
So what's happening right now? There are 7 attacks that take place in a period of less than 35 days.
Yes.
There are killings of 9 civilians and 6 to 7 security forces personnel, many others injured.
Right.
And the most horrific aspect that many haven't discussed, and this is top sources that are telling me,
Right.
that they fear that there is a group of 15 to 16 terrorists.
15 to 16 terrorists.
15 to 16 terrorists who have entered,
Right.
perhaps to the international border. That's a debate, how they really
Right.
entered, because they have been found in one of the upper reaches of this
Right.
entire region, and they forced an old lady in one of the villages to cook a meal for them.
Right.
And 6 to 7 kgs of dal was used in that entire, meal. Just rotis and 6 to 7 kgs of dal. Now, I don't believe that 3 to 4 terrorists would consume 6 to 7 kgs of
Kgs
dal.
of dal.
And that has really, questioned of course, the intelligence and the security grid,
Yes.
but also fear of further such attacks in the next few weeks. Also, even as we speak right now, Sandeep, there's a meeting that's going on at Kathua between the Punjab police and the J&K police, because there are fears
Right.
that which kind of route are
Right.
these terrorists taking,
Yes.
and where are they then taking shelter. And I would remind you, in
Yes.
2019, I found out when I went to Kathua and all this region, through the international border, there were tunnels that were
Right.
not just used for weapons and drugs,
Yes.
but terrorists were using to infiltrate and exfiltrate.
Exfiltrate. Yes.
A very prominent terrorist of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, Sandeep, Ashik Nengru,
Yes.
was responsible for not just couriering people, giving them OGW support,
Yes.
but helping the entire modus operandi of terrorist attacks.
Right.
He was responsible for a lot of terror attacks in Jammu belt,
Yes.
but then exfiltrated and is coordinating attacks now for Jaish-e-Mohammed from sitting in Pakistan.
Right. I mean, it was shocking indeed. And let's not forget, Aditya, that the Pulwama attackers also used tunnels to infiltrate and come in through the Jaish-e-Mohammed attackers.
And one more point I'll make,
Yes.
Sandeep, is that, there are multiple challenges.
Right.
One is, of course, in the last 3 to 4 years, a lot of our security forces have been moved out.
Yes.
From there to
the LAC.
To the LAC.
Yes.
Of course,
An entire light division has been moved out.
Exactly. So I'm not questioning the
Yes.
morale or
Right.
the strategic abilities
Yes.
or the mindset of the
Right.
forces. Of course, they're always there. But have we
Yes.
taken well-calibrated calls to
Right.
counter this? One. And secondly, the other challenges are that devices that are being used
Yes.
are not the conventional means.
Right, absolutely.
There are
Yes.
Chinese encrypted apps that are being used that
Yes.
cannot be cracked very easily. And it's not wireless communication, it's not just normal VPN.
It's
that's being
hybrid
used.
com
So
sets.
this is
yes.
a major challenge, and
Right.
overall we will of course discuss Pakistan later.
Yes.
But Asim Munir's tenure ending and he
Right.
coming back again is a
Yes.
major challenge, and
He
wants
needs
to
an
show.
extension.
He
Yes.
wants to show
Right.
that there are killings happening in J&K. J&K's proxy war is continuing.
Colonel Apte, on this, because he just wrote a very detailed piece on, analyzing this and in the print. Colonel Apte, tell us your sense of what is going on right now. Aditya just said something really scary. Groups of 15 and 16 terrorists crossing over. These are like cricket-sized teams of terrorists. I mean, we haven't heard of these numbers crossing in a very long time. I mean, it was just 2 and 3s. And now if they're coming in large numbers, obviously they're on to something. They found a new route. But tell us, what do you think, how these large numbers are coming in? Have they found a new route? Are they using the old routes? What's your sense on what we are seeing now?
Thanks, Sandeep. Absolutely, what Aditya brought up. There are these large numbers coming in, and the routes are the same. International border has been fenced. However, it continues to be less, or rather more prone to infiltration than what is there on the line of control. Usually, this was a tactic which was used way back, I think, late 90s and early 2000s, when
Yes.
the terrorists used to infiltrate from these rivers, Date, Basantar rivers, etc.,
Right.
reach the national highway, and then they would have 3 options. One of the options was, and that continues to the day, was to get help of an overground worker and move by a vehicle or any other means towards Riyasi. The second option was, in case ISI so calibrated it, was to move towards either civilian or military targets in and around Jammu. We have seen such incidents around Dinanagar and also Sanjwan. And the third option was, since Doda, Bhadarwa, these areas were very cut off for their earlier infiltration routes to come in through the north, they would actually trek a long time towards the east, reach this area of Bani Machedi, and then go northwards towards Bhadarwa. This area is sparsely populated, dense jungles, very less forces deployed there, being in the depth. So this was the kind of modus operandi that was used, and I fear that this is again, we see that since they have been choked in the north, this is
Yes.
something that they are resorting to again.
Going into the soft underbelly. But Colonel Apte, your piece also mentioned that you were worried that these attacks could spill into the hinterland as well. And we are very conscious of what happened in 2015 and 16 with the Dinanagar and the Pathankot airbase attack. Do you see a possibility of this happening? Because as you can see on the map there, Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, these are states that haven't dealt with terrorism. They're all around Jammu and Kashmir, especially Jammu. What is the danger that these states, that terrorists could actually infiltrate into these states and conduct, these kind of hit and run attacks there?
Absolutely, Sandeep, with you on this. There is no question in my mind whether it would happen or whether it can happen. We need to look at it from 2 points of view. One is capability and one is intent. As far as capability goes, we are very clear that ISI or GHQ does hold the capability to carry out terrorist attacks, not only in the near vicinity of where they are right now, but possibly also in the hinterland of India. As far as intent goes, of course, all the things that Aditya mentioned hold true. I would also like to add that another reason is that TTP and Taliban are really giving Pakistan a hard fight on the
Yes.
Western Front. And it is a good ploy for the Pakistan army, especially when the chief is looking at an extension of a tenure,
Yes.
to showcase that India remains the priority number one, the enemy number one, and they are able to execute strong operations in India and especially against Indian army. At a slightly higher, or I would say a more deeper level, if you try to analyze why is Pakistan doing what it is doing now, one of course is a backdrop of the elections we have had and the kind of mandate we have got, and trying to puncture the narrative that our government has set up, and rightly so, that things have slowly got back to normal. But if you look at it the other way, then Pakistan has more and more become isolated in the world opinion. US is not giving it aid that it was giving it earlier. Saudi and Middle East have also put it a little afar from where it was. And recently, when the visits of Pakistan Prime Minister and the chief to China hasn't yielded much. In fact, one of the key projects of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, a railway line, has been put on hold. So all in all, I think Pakistan feels, isolated. They feel that they are no longer on a table of any kind.
Right, right.
And their threat of being a man with a nuclear gun to its head has been
Yes.
called out by India and other countries.
Right, absolutely.
This is, I feel, their construct to, put Kashmir back on the map, put India get on a difficult wicket, get limelight in the world arena,
Absolutely.
and then possibly negotiate a better loan.
So that's the Pakistan deep state for you, forever in negotiations with big powers outside, using terror as a tool of diplomacy. But DGP Vaid, these 2 points that Colonel Apte mentioned, capability and intent that the Pakistani deep state has possessed for many years, but now that they have deployed it in Jammu, in a region that was fairly unguarded in the last couple of years, do you fear that these attacks could spread out of Jammu into the hinterland, like other states like Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, very close to where they have infiltrated, around Jammu?
See, I have no doubt about their intent. They may be down temporarily, economically, but as I understand Pakistan's deep state, they run biggest drug cartel of the world, and there is no dearth of money for terrorism. And
Right.
once they are able to infiltrate inside, they can strike anywhere in India, whether it is Haryana, Punjab, other Delhi or other places, and it has happened earlier also. We have seen in late 90s and early 2000 Parliament attack,
Yes.
Akshardham attack, your Ram Mandir attack. Now, the shift to Jammu, as I understand, is threefold. It's serving threefold purpose of the deep state of Pakistan. Number one, puncture the narrative that things have improved after Article 370. After getting choked, as Aditya was saying, in Kashmir, because security grid in Kashmir is very, very robust, and they have very little scope of doing major incidents. So puncture this narrative because Jammu, the troops were depleted after it had seen peace for last more than 15 years. Number two is seek the spread of the forces from Kashmir and Ladakh. China is partner in this, as I understand, because India is eyeball to eyeball deployment in Ladakh and
Yes.
also Kashmir. They are seeking spread of the forces from these two regions to Jammu region. Jammu region are largely hilly compared to Kashmir Valley, which is
Yes.
plain. Less connectivity in Jammu. Kashmir Valley, every village is connected. That is not true of Jammu. It's a largely hilly and
Yes.
there is one or two roads. The one village on this mountain top, the other village on other mountain top. That's why the concept of VDC was there because everywhere police forces could not
Yeah.
reach.
Yes.
And these VDCs could hold on for 3, 4, 5 hours till reinforcement could reach. I think we have to. My personal view is the time has come that Pakistan should be now dealt with. We can't. I think patience of people is going. You can't allow them to not only disturb whole. You see the way
Yes.
arc of terrorism is spreading from. Initially, they started from Rajouri Punch
Yes.
last 1.5 years, then Riyasi, then
Right.
it happened in Hiranagar, Kathua. You saw how what Aditya was saying, a larger group crossed. I had
Yes.
the information about the larger group crossing, and that actually had an encounter with a VDC in Basantgarh area of Udhampur.
Yes.
And VDC member got martyred. After that, this group went towards Doda, Bhadrawa area, where it split into 3, 4 groups, and that's what you are seeing.
Right.
One incident in Bilawar Tahsil of Kathua, Mashedi area, another in Gando, the third one in Bhadrawa area. I think that's what you are witnessing, and you need to go after these people. Important operations.
Absolutely. This is very alarming indeed, DGP Ved, what you just said. The fact that, and we know this from history, that that's how the Pakistan deep state functions. They keep testing your patience with your boundaries, and they just look, they keep probing and probing and probing. And that's what we're witnessing now, Aditya. They're slowly pushing into Jammu, and this is the reason that we should be on guard for these terror attacks to expand through Punjab and possibly to Himachal Pradesh as well.
No doubts about that, Sandeep. Pakistani deep state and these proxy actors are changing their tactics, and especially the kind of terrorism that we have seen over the last more than 3 decades.
Right.
That's not visible anymore. The kind of proxy war is completely changed. I mean, look at the killing of the 9 Hindu pilgrims
Yes.
that happened, I think, on the 9th of June,
9th
9th
of
of last month.
Last month, yes.
And that was exactly when the swearing in ceremony was happening.
Right.
It was a message
Yes.
that the proxy war continues. We need to get international headlines,
Right.
and that will be the best time for them to
Yes.
show to the world
Right.
that terrorism is very much active in Jammu and Kashmir.
Absolutely, and it must have the fact that you had over 60% turnout in the Lok Sabha polls would
Yes.
have really frightened the deep state.
And add to that a very successful Amarnath Yatra that's
Yes,
happening right now.
yes.
I'm told that more than 2.5 to 3 lakh pilgrims have already,
Right.
in fact, been there. But as DGP Ved actually mentioned,
Yes.
the fear is real.
Right.
We have a couple of colleagues here in the newsroom from Jammu.
Yes.
And they've been asking me since the last 1 week that what's
Right.
happening in Jammu?
Yes.
What are the details? Is terrorism actually reaching our doorstep? And that's a concern. They haven't asked me about Kashmir the same way
Yes.
in the last many days or weeks or months. So I think there is a genuine fear. And I've
Right.
been in touch with top officials. They have been meeting, and I'm sure that a tough response would be given. But there's been a complete airy calm in the last
Yes,
1 month.
Yes.
My question is that, we speak a lot against terrorism,
Yes.
but costs need to be imposed.
Yes.
If you don't have a tough response,
Right.
only words will not do.
Words won't do,
You
but
need to
yes.
have a well-calibrated response.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask Colonel Apte about that well-calibrated response. What is it going to be? The fact that we have a ceasefire in place along the LOC, that would definitely have taken off a lot of the options that the Indian army had in the past to, impose some kind of punishment on the Pakistan army. But now you have a ceasefire that's holding for about 4 years now. What are the options really, Colonel Apte, for the Indian army, the Indian state to respond to these multiple acts of terror in Jammu?
What Indian state does not do and cannot do is have proxy actors or non-state actors do what Pakistanis do in India.
Right.
So the only response or only strength that we have
Yes.
is our conventional capability, especially when we are deployed along the LC or the international boundary in Jammu area. There was a ceasefire way back in 2003 November, which lasted for a few years, and it slowly deteriorated into a spectrum of almost artillery duels restarting.
Yes.
And that is the time when again Pakistan came up with this request of a ceasefire. I think it's time to let that be. Whether we recognize the ceasefire or not is a moot point. But what's required is a robust and a strong military response to Pakistan on LC. There needs to be cost imposed on Pakistan.
DGP Vaid, a robust and resolute military response to the Pakistan army on the LOC. What's your view on this? How should the state respond to these acts of terror?
I think India will definitely respond in a manner and timing of its choosing, and I think that decision has to be taken at the topmost level in Delhi. I am sure the policymakers in Delhi must be thinking about various options, and cost has to be made very heavy for Pakistan. You can't allow how long our civilians will get killed, our army men will get killed, our policemen will get killed. I think there is a limit, and we have tolerated enough.
Yes.
Let's see once for all.
Absolutely. We have a limit. That limit seems to have been crossed, as our experts have told us this evening. Jammu attacks, will they spread? That's been the worry, because the Pakistan deep state, as we've seen in the past, has a habit of probing our thresholds, and this is what they did in 2015 and 16 before the surgical strikes, and of course that very famous attack on Balakot by the Indian Air Force. Has that moment come? Our experts believe this is the time now. But that's a story we'll be tracking very closely, because what happens in Jammu and Kashmir can't be taken lightly, because terror and the deep state have a habit of pushing attacks through the Indian hinterland. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Thank you very much, DGP Vaid, Colonel Apte, and my colleague Aditya Raj Kaul.